Okay, good one. Thank you. Okay, so then, good morning, everyone. Then, as I usually do anyway in my sessions, that we start with some minutes of focusing the mind and then engage in the main body of the meditation, which is around the subject of the perfect human rebirth, especially in our friend, the blind turtle, surfaces the ocean every 100 years. And then also around that, the subject, as Geshe-la mentioned, one of the verses yesterday, about deception. Deception in terms of not making use of our human life well. So then to sit in comfortable position which is conducive for the mind being focused and also relaxed. Each person really needs to work that out for themselves, what is most conducive for their focusing meditation. I generally said that it's best to have the back straight, be sitting in a position which is supportive of stability of the mind, and then spend some minutes here focusing the mind. If you already have a technique that you use in breathing meditation, then to employ that method. If not, one method is to observe the sensation of the breath coming in and going out, and as best as possible to maintain an awareness of the sensation of the air coming in, going out. And as the distractions arise, maintain the alertness that is able to discern that that these distractions are arising, and not to be swept away by them. Neither be swept away by them nor to try to oppress them, but just to note them and to bring the mind back to the breath. The distractions in the form of thoughts, memories and plans, sounds inside the room, outside the room, whatever. Just to note these. And then with gentleness, a gentleness but with determination to bring the mind back to the breath. So then continuing like this for the first part of the session. So then, in this main body of the meditation, that here in first off reflecting on perfect human rebirth via the analogy of the turtle that surfaces, that we gain an appreciation, a deepening appreciation of the rarity of perfect human rebirth, and then also to reflect on how it is that this perfect human rebirth can be wasted in a deceptive manner when we believe that somehow we can find peace of mind through the afflictions, particularly attachment. The more that we understand the deceptive nature of this approach that says that we can simultaneously engage in the afflictions and yet seek liberation, is clearly a deception, contradictory, like going to war or fighting for peace. Yeah, so then, was mentioned yesterday in the teaching, the analogy of this blind turtle that resides in the depths of the ocean. So blind, meaning that symbolizes ignorance, not understanding how things exist. And also we say blind and as in terms of not understanding the existence of karma. Living in the depths of the ocean refers really to the living principally in the lower realms. This is the main address, as they say, that sentient beings in samsara have. But then this blind turtle surfaces or comes to the surface of the ocean once every 100 years. And so that symbolizes the rarity of a human rebirth that comes once every 100 years, that comes to the surface. And seems like only momentarily is there and then descends again. So short duration and very rare human rebirth. But then on top of that, the analogy talks about this blind turtle that not only comes to the surface of the ocean, but there is a yoke that floats on the surface of the ocean. And that yoke is constantly moving around all the time, over, probably you could say, since beginning this time. And that symbolizes you could say, the conditions for perfect human rebirth, to take perfect human rebirth, particularly the existence of the Dharma. And so then the rarity of this perfect human rebirth is the turtle not only surfaces or comes to the surface of the ocean, but then it puts its head through that yoke. And then that symbolizes the rarity of getting all the causes and conditions together to bring that result of the perfect human rebirth. So here, just to get a sense of the good fortune, if it is the case, we've got those conditions together, the 8 freedoms and 10 endowments, as well as a human life. Then we're extremely fortunate. And so we should make use of these conditions in best possible way. We should extract the essence of our perfect human rebirth. That is particularly to engage in Mahayana Buddhist practice. through the teachings here of Bodhisattva as a way of life being presented by Geshe Sotram. So even as Dharma practitioner, the mind knows no end in its capacity to be engaging in deception by habit. It deceives us, our afflictive mind deceives us and leads us to believe that we can find happiness through engaging in the afflictions. And we can see this in relation to mind of attachment, which is so pervasive. And attachment particularly because it's deceptive. Because with anger, it's easier to see how that is a problem. But often with attachment, it can, when our mind is one with attachment, we get a feeling this is the source of our happiness. So in general, it says that the afflictions defined as disturbing states of mind, not in accord with reality, and bring the result of suffering. An attachment exaggerates the positive qualities of objects and is like mental glue, very difficult to separate our mind from the object of attachment. Brings about disturbance of the mind, brings unhappiness, and leads us to create negative actions. But attachment is a liar. Because it distorts the way that things exist. It makes them, embellishes something to them. It's part of it's in the DNA, in a sense, of the mind of attachment, that it comes with it. When you have attachment in the mind, simultaneously with that is that the object will be distorted. It will appear to possess the quality of happiness from the side of the object. It will appear that way. When your mind has attachment, you don't have any choice but to see the object as a source of happiness. Then it's deceptive because it tells you that the object is permanent. The more strongly your mind adheres to an object, again, the object appears as permanent and possessible. That person to whom you're attracted under the power of attachment will appear permanent and possessible. You can have lasting happiness if I can be with this person. But when you look beyond it, you see in that person, there is nothing existing, nothing within the body and mind you can find, which is not changing from moment to moment. But the mind of attachment will deceive you into believing that it is permanent and possessible. Then with the mind of attachment, it'll tell you that the object is somehow perfect and pure. There's perfection or purity existing in that object. When you have attachment to something and the mind embellishes it with its chatter, which is conceptualization, it'll add more layers of this is the most perfect person or object or whatever, like the advertisers do for us. And then the mind of attachment deceives us because it tells us that what appears to us is existing out there, independent of our mind. The appearance there, how it appears, is under the mind of attachment. It appears to be existing out there. That appearance is separate from your own mind. It appears that way. Attachment will tell you that. And so it will deceive, because any given object, each person looks at, sees differently. The mind projects under the power of attachment attributes to the object, coming from the mind onto the object, not from the side of the object. So from this point of view, the mind of attachment deceives us. It's a liar. But the mind of attachment also is a thief, because it takes away our happiness and peace of mind, and takes away our opportunity to attain the state of enlightenment. Each time we engage with the mind of attachment, takes us further from being on the path to enlightenment. So it's a deceptive liar and a thief. But it's also deceptive as well, because it acts as though it's our friend, it's our advisor for living the life. Like the wicked cardinal or archbishop who is constantly misadvising the king, and the king trusts the advice of this archbishop or cardinal. But all the advice is deceptive. But because of the lack of wisdom of the king, the inability to discern, each time it falls for the advice, it swallows the advice and follows the advice of this cardinal. So this mind of attachment is also treacherous. And so those objects that appear so appealing under the mind of attachment, when they appear there under the mind of attachment and we act, then it's like drinking salt water to quench your thirst. The water looks like it will quench your thirst, but when you drink it, it only increases the thirst. Or it's like licking a honey off a razor blade. Very sweet and irresistible is the taste. But then the cut, that sharp cut to the tongue, is very painful. But actually, the more that we're able to, it doesn't take too much to lessen that mind of attachment, especially that mind deceiving us, especially we use our own personal experience of how it is our attachment in the past has caused us to suffer. Having these experiences can be very good in a way because then you know what it means. You recognize it when you hear the teachings. You know what it is to be attached and the pain that comes with it. And we can also use our intelligence as a human being. We have this capacity of our mind to be able to observe objects and to see how it is that the mind of attachment obliges us to see the object as permanent, even though when we look within wisdom, that there's no permanence there. And then also we can use our intelligence to find where does the happiness exist in that object. Attachment will always tell us the object possesses happiness in and of itself. But can you find actually happiness existing from the side of the object? Attachment obliges us to see the object as happiness, so it becomes irresistible, our pursuit of it, because we always want to have happiness and to be free of suffering. But again, if you look closely, any of the appealing objects, when you examine, remove the layers of the appearance of happiness, you won't be able to find anything existing within the object as happy. Then we look into it to see where is the perfection or purity. And you see that these various objects that we pursue, we somehow think we get perfection. If you look at how they go, continue on, and what happens to them, how they decay. If it's a person's body, it decays. If it's an object, it decays, it rots away, it doesn't last. So if it's so perfect and pure, how could it produce something which in the end is clearly not perfect or pure? So it doesn't possess perfection or purity. And then also when we look at the various objects that appear to exist like that, you start to think any object under the mind of attachment appears to your mind, and ask yourself, does anyone else see this object in this way? Not much different how it is in a dream. The object appears in the dream to be existing separately from our mind. But then we wake up and realize it's a creation of the mind. And so then with this, we can work towards lessening the deception of the mind of attachment, and thereby start to make use of our perfect human rebirth in the best possible way, in order to accomplish the benefit of others. And then, of course, here attending these teachings, the Bodhisattva's way of life. You know, in a sense, what better way, as we absorb more and more the general gist of the teachings, to condition our mind in a positive way so that we will be less subject to deception in the future and live our life more in accord with reality in order to accomplish our own and others' benefit. Okay, so thank you.